Hi everyone, Dave here at East Rosebud Fly and Tackle, Billings, Montana. Today I'm going to tie for you a floating nymph. It's probably something you've never heard of. We're all aware of preeminence or pre-emergence with any mayfly fisher taking emergers. And I think if you've been around fly tying, fly fishing long enough, you've certainly heard of that. But one thing to think about is before the mayfly actually starts to break through that final shuck, it's a nymph. It's the same nymph that left the bottom of the stream and is now underneath the meniscus waiting for the time to emerge. So a floating nymph is a great pattern to be fishing, and it's easier to see than an emerger. You do not need an indicator or anything like that. There's a variety of things that can use. I like using one of these foam posts. Both Rainey's and Wapsie makes them in a variety of colors and a variety of diameters. This foam is much more compressible than it looks like when you first use it. So it makes for a dandy little floating post and also something for you to see, a high vis type. So it's an easy enough fly to tie, but it's also, like I say, it's an important stage during that emergence period that if they're not taking emergers, and they can be very selective during that period, then try a floating nymph. I'm going to tie a size 14 blue-winged olive floating nymph. I'm going to go ahead and wrap a thread base here in preparation for tying in the tail, the rib, everybody else through the back of the barb. For the tail and also for the legs, I'm just going to be using some hackle from a grouse tail feather. If you have partridge, that'll work fine, quail, whatever you have. We just want some soft hackle, something that's got a little bit of movement to it. Doesn't need to be heavy, just a few barbs here. About half a shank length. The Veevus is a swimmer nymph, so it's very active. Fish are used to seeing it move around. Like so. Tie it back a little ways. So often we forget that a dead drift isn't always the best way to fish things, particularly if the nymph itself is naturally active. Fish are looking for movement. They're looking for a signal that this thing is alive. So an occasional twitch, that sudden inch, as one author put it, can be a very effective way to get some attention. So this is small copper wire I'm using for a rib. I'm going to tie it on my side of the hook shank because I'm going to reverse wrap or counter wrap this wire. Right down there. And for dubbing, I'm using this olive colored Hare's Ear Plus dubbing. This is just Antron, clear Antron with olive hare's ear. It's a nice spiky dubbing. It's got a little bit of sparkle to it without being totally synthetic. And I'm going to dub a tapered body, narrow at the tail, getting larger up to about 2/3 of the way up the hook shank. And then we'll address the post. Nice and tight. Plus the hare's ear dubbing itself will absorb some water, which means it'll help to keep your nymph right in the film, and the post will float it. We're at about the 2/3 spot here. A piece of post. Now you can tie this in with the long end facing back, facing forward. I like to tie it in facing forward since I'm going to be propping it up with thread wraps. Being right-handed, it's easier for me to hold the post with my right hand as I bring thread forward versus having it behind and doing this one over. So Simply going to pinch the post there and grab just a little bit of it. Doesn't take a lot to secure this. Like I say, it compresses more easily than you think. So a couple of thread wraps there to get it going. And a couple of thread wraps on the hook shank. That will help to prevent it from twisting. I like that pretty much the way it is, tell you the truth. That's just enough for you to see. And then go ahead and you can see how well that compresses. And this is 10-aught Veevus. This isn't GSP. It just doesn't take a lot of pressure. So now I'll get my ribbing wire, wrap it counterclockwise. Helps to preserve the integrity of your dubbed body. I believe I showed you last time, maybe a couple videos before, how to tie off counter-wrapped wire. If you try to tie off in a conventional way, you're unwrapping the wire, you're pushing it away from you. So take one wrap around it with the thread, tighten both, and then tighten both, bring it around over the top, and then take 2 or 3 wraps around the wire and the thread, then over the top, and then just break it off. That way the wire doesn't loosen, stays nice and tight. Now we'll finish up the body a little bit here, cover this post tie in, and put in the legs. You can see how spiky this dubbing is. I like natural hair dubbing. It soaks up water and helps to keep this right in the surface film, which is where you want it. Come underneath, make sure we've got that post tie-in covered. Come right up to about 1 eye length shy. Alright, I'm going to tie in a few legs. Again, it's the same grouse feather. I just chose grouse because the fibers are a little longer and gives my hands something to hold on to. Now, if you have a rotary capable vise, it's very easy. All you have to do is flip it upside down, tie your legs into about hook point length, do a pinch wrap or 2, make sure that they are reasonably centered. Cut them off, and we'll finish. So we have a variety of different foam posts here, different colors, different diameters, and like I said earlier, if you don't have foam posts, you can use some 2mm foam, cut a thin strip, and use that instead. It works fine. But I wanted to primarily show you that this stuff, although it looks hard, it really compresses very easily, and as you can see from a single post, you can probably get many as a half a dozen flies, so you've got a lot of flies in one package. So there's your BWO Floating Nymph. All you have to do is change the colors and make it a PMD or whatever you like. So thanks for joining in, and we'll see you next time.